fascinating story. Now, you've seen the title, and a lot of people might have heard this story, but there's parts of this story that don't often get told. And with this being local, only 10 miles away from me, and I spoke to Alan Godfrey myself, there is more to this story that hasn't really been told. It has, but more often than not, when this story is told, they leave these bits out, so I'm going to tell you the full story. There's 4 very strange things happen which are connected with this story of Alan Godfrey, who was a police officer, and he come across what he says was a UFO. Nuts and bolts, it was solid, it was there right in front of him as he was patrolling one night over the moors in Todmorden. So we'll start from the beginning. We'll go back around 3 months before this. There was a guy called Zigmund Adamski, if I pronounce that right, 56-year-old miner who lived over a place called Tingley near Wakefield. That's 20 miles away from Todmorden. Now, Zigmund Adamski was called out to get some milk or bread, I think it was, from the local shop, and never returned, completely disappeared. There was a big search for him, and to cut a long story short, he was found bled on top of a coal pile in Todmorden, face up, right on top of the pile. Now, what's strange about this, the pile had no disturbances. There was no tyre tracks, no footprints leading up to the pile, because quite a muddy area there, and any footprints, tyre tracks would show it was found on top of this pile, facing up by Alan Godfrey and a colleague. His eyes were wide open, and as they said, a look of shock on his face. There was a substance found on him, a gel-type substance, which got analysed, but to this day, nobody knows what it is. A lot of the experts who looked into this, and these theories come out later on, plus there's lots of sightings of UFOs around Todmorden, and they say it just looks as if he'd been dropped from above on this coal pile. There is no evidence of any, like I said, footprints, tyre tracks, any evidence of him having crawled up the pile. He had all this dark soot on his back as he was placed on his back, but nothing on his hands, nothing on his front. And they said to, if he would have climbed up there, he would have been covered in black soot all over his hands and everything. So one even went as far as to say, if they could sort of prove he was dropped from above, he wouldn't raise half an eyebrow, because there is no other way he could have ended up there. That is the fascinating part of it. So we're going to go forward now to a week before Alan Godfrey's sighting, and there were police officers called up to the moors over Todmorden, and this area is well known for UFO sightings. There's been many before that, many since, even this week, last week, people who reported sightings over there. And these police officers were called up on the moors to investigate stolen motorbikes, when they reported seeing a bright blue object zigging around in the skies on the moors. Now, this is 1980. I would have thought way before drones, especially anything like what we see today. And this object was zigging around all over the place. He estimated at one point it travelled over 30 miles as it went from one peak of the moors over to a distant peak, which is a 30 mile distance within a second. And there wasn't quick to report this, because back in 1980 a lot of stigma, as you'll find out with the Alan Godfrey sighting. So we're moving now forward a week, and I would say Alan Godfrey actually thought this was on that night, the night he had his sighting. He thought this was the same night for many years, then he realised, because he did tell that in his stories, but found out this was a week before. So we're going to the night of his sighting now. Earlier that evening, a farmer who lives down the valley from Todmorden reported his cows had gone missing. And there was people started ringing into the police station saying, please can you come down to our estate, there are cows wandering around. Now, I thought this might be a wind up, but one of the ladies who rang up was an elderly lady who we knew and trusted, and thought, well, she's not likely to be pulling a prank. So they went to this estate investigate this herd of cows wandering about. Now this lady did say there was a bright light, a flash like lightning, and the cows just disappeared, which made the story even more unlikely, and I really did think, is this a wind-up? Anyway, they got to the estate, spoke to the lady, no cows anywhere. Now, a bit later on, this herd of cows appeared in a park in Tobinham called Centre Vale Park, and after investigation, it again seems that these cows were dropped there or placed there, as there's no way in or way out. The gates are locked at night there. There was no hoof prints, no sign of, no trail of the sign of the trail of these cows making it into the park. They couldn't do, there's one little gate leading into the park. Now Alan did say right round the other side of the park there is a possibility of a way in. They checked that, and it's a very wet area, these moors, and you go walking around, you're walking your dog, and cattle will leave footprints, hoof prints, and there's absolutely no sign of any prints left on the floor. And these herd of cows was right in the park. It was investigated, it really was investigated, and baffled everybody who looked into it, as with the Zigmund Adamski case over 3 months earlier. So that's the third very strange thing to happen in Tobinham. Now we'll go on with Alan Godfrey's sighting later that night. He was doing the night shift, so he set off in his patrol car, headed out of Tobinham towards Burnley. His night shift was coming to an end, he was doing his last patrol. And this is 6 o'clock in the morning, November 30th, back in 1980, when he's driving along and notices what he first thought was maybe a double-decker bus. At that time there was work buses taking people to work early in the morning. He thought a double-decker bus had gone sideways along the road. Then as he got closer he thought hot air balloon, and like he said, he thought hot air balloon's not going to be around at 6 o'clock in the morning. And you do, this is what you do, you, like I said in the other video, you just try and rationalise things. That's what your brain will try, to rationalise things as to things you know. Anyway, he got up to it and realised this was none of them. He describes it as a diamond-shaped object hovering off the road, and he knows that, he could see under it, and he could see the other side of the road. It was rotating, and at the top was sort of blacked windows or panelling, he said it could have been, and that was rotating. The bottom was rotating the opposite way. He put his lights on the car, the police flashing lights, simply to warn anybody coming up behind the danger that he was stopped in the road. He could see these lights reflecting off this object, and he said had he got out and chucked a brick or a stone at it, it would have gone bang. This was a solid object, there was no light up in the sky, no mirage, it was there. And what he noticed was all the trees and the branches to the side of the road. It was quite a narrow road in that area, and we're blowing around. He estimated the road in that area to be about 20 foot across. It was taking up most of that, and he could see under it. It was about 5 feet off the floor. Now back in 1980, there's no cameras or anything on most people, so what he did, what most people would have done, would get out his pad, his police pad for taking notes, and started to draw this object. And we're thinking, who do I get in contact with? I mean, he can't. We're phoning the police. He is the police, he's there on site. And as he started drawing, he said there was a bright flash, and the next thing he knows, he's driving along further along the road, shocked, turns around, goes back to where this object was. The object had gone. It had been a wet night, and on the road, he said, it was a dry whirlpool type shape, broken branches all over the place, which fitted in with what he reported, and the dry area right under where this object had been. So you can imagine the shock. This is a down-to-earth policeman, Yorkshireman, back in 1980, and I know this area, around this area, especially the older generation, they're very down-to-earth, very down-to-earth, and you can imagine the shock. drives back to the police station, and what in his mind should have really took 5 minutes, 10 minutes at most. When he got back to the police station, 40 minutes had passed. His colleagues were asking him where he has been, where have you been? 40 minutes had passed. They were starting to worry about him. He didn't understand why they looked so worried until they found out this 40 minutes had passed. So that is his sighting. But a lot more happened after this. He did report it. Remember, we're going back to 1980, and he got hell in the police station, to be quite honest with you. He said his family life, his private life, family life was ruined, or they tried to ruin this. He got asked to be transferred over to Halifax. Basically, they didn't want him around Tom of them. They tried to set him up, and drugs were placed in his locker. No one believed him. He got banned from the police station, but he got suspended. Banned from the police station. He got called in one time. They wanted to look in his locker. Anyway, why do you want to look in my locker? And they were planting drugs in his locker for whatever reason. Maybe to get him off the force. Or what I should say, he had heard about this sort of thing going on, and he had already been in the police station on an interview about this sighting earlier, and he had found drugs in his locker. Now, he got to this locker before anybody else did. You can imagine in the police station, and like I said, drugs shouldn't be anywhere in the police station, especially not in his locker. He got rid of them, flushed them down the toilet. Like I said, in hindsight, was that the best thing to do? But that's what he did. It shook him up that much. So they called him back into the police station to check his locker again. And on this occasion, he was just hoping that they hadn't gone and planted more drugs in his locker. He went with a colleague of his, like he was allowed to. He could have had a union rep. Went to his locker, and they opened up his locker. The inspectors and expected to see the drugs there, which had been placed there. Now, he said he can't say these inspectors had placed these drugs, but somebody had. But because he'd already heard about this and got rid of the drugs, nothing with it. Apparently, the look on their face, he said, they were absolutely fuming. They were angry, livid. That's a local term. That these drugs weren't there. He turned to him and said, "What's up? Why do you look so angry?" And their excuse were, when you were down in another police station somewhere being interviewed about this sighting, you left your helmet there, and somebody else left their helmet from that police station. Here you've got the wrong helmets, so we wanted to get his helmet. And he disbelief. He looked at him and said, "You've come all the way from," I think it was Halifax, because I've left my helmet there and somebody else has left their helmet here, and you thought it was in my locker. You can't believe it. What an excuse. What an excuse. He went through hell. He went through weeks, if not months, of not being believed, being transferred to another police station, then being suspended, and he went through hell, guys. And it went on to his family life, and I think he did say at one point he wished he'd never said a word. But now he's glad he has, and he sticks to his story. I've met him myself, the most down-to-earth person he could have ever met. He did undertake some hypnosis to try and get more information about this, and under hypnosis he does show, he does say he was abducted, taken aboard. He remembered these beings, but he admits himself if he's not sure about hypnosis, whether it's reliable. He doesn't know. He doesn't have any memory of that apart from under hypnosis. So fascinating. Alan's still with us now. I think he's in mid-70s. I've seen him a couple of times around Todmorden. Well, what a story, but he sticks to it to this day. He said he don't know about the hypnosis. The police officers who saw the blue orb over the mirrors, he knows police officers, he believes them 100%. Zigmund Adamski, that was never solved. And he said that's the strangest thing. The The only way Zigmund Adamski could end up where he was in this situation was from being dropped from above this object, a big diamond-shaped object. He said, "I saw that, no one will ever change my mind. It was right in front of me. The police light was reflecting of it. I could see under it, it was hovering. That was there. No one will ever tell him any difference." This is back in 1980, November the 30th. This is one of the most well-known UFO cases in the UK. Another one of the most well-known UFO cases in the UK is a Rendlesham Forest incident down south, where a lot of military and American military said they saw an object in the forest. They couldn't explain. It's all on the dictaphones. It's a well-known sighting. Now, this happened about 4 weeks later, in December of 1980, and they described it as a diamond-shaped object, possibly. So, two of the most well-known UFO cases in the UK happening within 4 weeks of each other. Now, that's interesting. I mentioned that once to Alan quite a few years ago over text, and he hadn't thought of that. He hadn't given that a thought, and he agrees that is very odd indeed. So there we go, guys. The Alan Godfrey UFO case. It's all over the internet. Look at it if you want. There are some details there which aren't often told. They have been told, but not often. Usually it's the sighting what Alan had. And there's 4 very strange things. Zigmund Adamski going missing, being found like it was. The blue orbs and lights over the mirrors seen by police officers in Tottenham the week before. The missing cows incident is fascinating. Like I said, it was well looked into, and no trace of tracks leading into that park, and they just appeared. And the Alan Godfrey UFO sighting in missing time, fascinating. If you've got any stories, guys, please do let me know. Please do let me know. Like I said, you've probably heard this story before, but there's details there you won't have heard, and it's only 10 miles away from me. You spend a lot of time over the mirrors around there, and very strange things seen in them skies by the locals. If you've got any stories, let me know. Hopefully the next story will be back in the camper van, and I want to get out with this silence and start filming them skies again. It has dried up a lot. It's gone very cold but very misty. It has forecast clear skies for the last 2 nights, but it's misty, and that's where you get over these mirrors. A lot of mist, but it is what it is. Any stories, let me know. Please do like, share and subscribe. Leave me a comment, I'll always reply. And I'll tell you stories, put them in the comments. Have a great day, guys. God bless you all. Speak soon.